What's happening, gang? So, this is going to be a pretty short and sweet. I wanted to do a video on imagination. On kids today, we essentially don't let them have a chance to develop an imagination. I think it's systematically designed that way. That way, you, in a more or less, are creating a more controllable society. When somebody doesn't have the imagination, when somebody doesn't have the ability to hope and to dream and to use their brain in ways that, in a sense, is not programmed that way, right? It's like you are a free child whenever you have imagination, when you can dream, when you can look at things in a different way that no one else does. And that's one thing that I wanted to touch on today. Some things that I wanted to use as props is some stuff that I played with when I was a kid. Okay? I brought this out here. Here's the very first and most important toy that every kid should be able to learn how to fucking play with and use their imagination. A couple of rocks. See these? These are quartz rocks, so they're pretty cool, magical, amazing rocks. Use your imagination. You can do anything with a fucking pile of rocks, man. I promise you. It'll be fun. You don't need some kind of computer game in order to keep you fucking occupied for all day. All I need is a big ass pile of rocks and some mud, some sticks. So that's the number one fucking toy, number one imagination tool. Some rocks, being outside. Now, being out in California where I grew up, it was hard for me to not love one of these. This right here is called a hacky sack. Now, I still keep this very hacky sack in my glove box in my vehicle. It's more or less like an everyday carry item. We'll go on over to everyday carry a little bit. That is what you have on your person on a daily basis, just in case anything happens. And if I'm fucking bored or sitting around having to wait and waste my time and what have you, I'll break this thing out and fucking kick it around a couple of times. Now, I was never super awesome at this thing, but during recess back when I was growing up, we may have only had 10 minutes. Back in the day, yeah, kids had recess. You had the opportunity to go outside in between classes and fucking play and enjoy life. You know, we had like 30 minutes for lunch and what have you, and for real, we could go out there and play some football, and that's generally what we did. We would play, we would play all kinds of stuff. We would play pickle. You know, that was a fun game. We would play, what is it? Something fly. I forget, when you throw the football, one guy throws it up and everybody tries to catch the shit, and then we go back and forth. There's all kinds of fun games that I don't even remember the names of them anymore. I mean, who in the fuck still plays like dodgeball and Foursquare? Remember Foursquare, you guys, where you had the four fucking squares and you throw the goddamn ball in between there and you try to get the other guy out? Yeah, man. Where is stuff like that? Do kids even understand what the hell kickball is? Do any kids play kickball? I remember when I was a kid, there was like tons of fucking kids in the street in my neighborhood. When people would drive through the fucking neighborhood, they had to drive slow because there was fucking kids in the road all the time. It was the norm. And hell, I was running around barefoot and shit. And some of those like really gay 80s pants or 80s shorts, you know, those Adidas like way up high. I remember looking at my pictures when I was a kid. I was like, good God, why did my parents let me wear those shorts? But I guess that was the thing back in the 80s. I remember seeing hella jogging pictures of folks wearing those, but sure enough, they had me in those things when I was a kid. I was wearing that with my little Transformer shirt, man. I was pimp. So, speaking of Transformers, I also had some Transformers. Now these guys right here would keep me occupied for hours. I could move them back and forth, you know, and then drive them around my room and shit. You know, they'd have a little wars. I would build boxes. I'd have, you know, old boxes and stuff, and I would fucking cut little windows and doors in it, and I would have my G.I. Joes too, and they would play and do their things. I would have Legos, and I could build things out of it for, you know, incorporated with it. I had my Hot Wheels that I could imagine that were doing things and what have you. Those are all things that kids need time to do. You don't need a video game to fucking play with some Transformers or play with the hacky sack or what have you. Next fucking thing to bring out is the ever important Frisbee. Why don't people play Frisbee anymore? I don't ever see kids out in the fucking streets playing Frisbee. When I was a kid, I was playing the hell out of some Frisbee. Me and my best friend Ty across the street, we would fucking either throw the football around, play some Frisbee, like every day after school. It was us playing outside. Of course, he was, you know, having to do his schoolwork and shit because that's his main focus. And me, I was like, fuck, this shit's boring. I want to go and play and use my imagination. Now, they all but beat the imagination out of him. He's still got some left. But I think out of all the kids in the neighborhood growing up, I was probably the one that kept their goddamn imagination full and intact. No one was able to ever beat my imagination out of me. I still want to play with my Frisbee every so often. I want to still play the hacky sack. I will keep those two go-to items at all times. Now, some rocks. I still want to play with rocks at this very stage. I will build a dam with some rocks at my property down in Americus here in the very near future. I'll collect all kind of rocks and make all kind of fun stuff. I, to be honest with you, haven't played with Transformers in years. These aren't even the Transformers that I had when I was a kid. These were some ones that I ended up buying at a yard sale. And yeah, I was the oldest. Okay, so the Transformers that I had essentially went down to my younger siblings, which didn't appreciate them as much as I did. So they essentially all were broken by the time they got through the younger siblings. So, hell with my toys. I remember, oddly enough, these rubber wheels, you know, I would always take those off and I would like to chew on them. So all of my Transformers, all of my cars, all my everything had the fucking rubber wheels taken off. And, oh, Tonka trucks. Remember back in the day when Tonka trucks were real metal? It's like this part of the Transformer. This is real metal right here. It's pretty cool. I mean, a lot of this is plastic, but, you know, the feet, that's real metal, and the front, that's real metal. It's kind of neat. But the old school Tonka trucks, sure enough, I remember playing with those and using my imagination like a motherfucker. I was building skyscrapers, doing all kinds of shit with my fucking Tonka trucks, man. I was the pimp little kid. So, just keep in mind, Imagine-fucking-nation, you guys. You guys still need to use your imagination, even well into your fucking 90s and 100s and shit. Everyone needs their imagination. Please do not let your kids be raised without their imaginations being like fucking really, you know, kids need to go and just explore and imagine and play and fucking uncover rocks and stick their fingers in places where they're not necessarily supposed to, and maybe even get it stung or bit. It's what they fucking need to do. I mean, I don't know where the fuck I would be if I didn't get stung or bit, you know, for sticking my fucking hands in certain holes at certain times of the year. It's one of those things that you just learn. You got to figure things out. You got to be bit. You got to be kicked in the nuts every so often so you fucking experience life. Man, I love getting fucked up every so often. Getting kicked in the nuts. Getting a big F, you know? Failing. I learn a lesson every time I do, and I fucking appreciate those times. In all honesty, I learn more from those failures and from those shots to the nuts than I learned from those good times. I promise you, the good times I generally will take things for granted. Those shitty times, that's when I really sit back and I have to think and I have to learn and I have to make sure that that shit doesn't happen again. So I put a lot of thought into those fails and those shots to the nuts. Imagination is key. Imagination is the best weapon that you have in fighting the opposition. Make sure you do everything you can in order to keep your imagination, and try to encourage imagination in everywhere you go. That's the key to success in life and this journey, is imagination. I appreciate you guys watching. I love y'all. Take care. Have a great fucking evening.